Kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. Today's guest has turned trauma into hope, stories into impact, and simple moments into a movement. Kim Lengling, Lengling, so yes, is a
Yes.
multi-published author, podcast host, and passionate mental wellness advocate who believes we can all be a nugget of hope in our corner of the world. From living with PTSD to sharing messages of courage and kindness, Kim's work inspires resilience, compassion, and connection. Her latest book, Nuggets of Hope, Cultivate Kindness, is a call to action for every listener. Kim, welcome to Attention is the Currency. It's so good to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
It's going to be great. We're going to dig into the story and hear all about the book. I'm very excited too. And so, Kim, we'll start from the start. What first sparked your mission to share hope?
It was a few years ago. The word hope was showing up everywhere. You've probably had something like that happen. It showed up on television, on the radio, anything I was reading, podcast, all kinds of different things. The word hope was everywhere. And I realized at some point after I'd seen it for several weeks, okay, I got to do something with this. And I am a Christian, so I felt that was a nudge from God for me to do something with hope. And at that point in my personal life, it was a dark spot for me. I wasn't feeling very hopeful for a lot of things and for many reasons. So I wasn't really enthusiastic about hope. And then I realized, okay, maybe I'm supposed to do this for others, do something for others. So I had these cards that I had gotten at a networking event years ago when I worked in the corporate world. And I just had, I think, 6 of them. And they are the type of cards that just said, "You're awesome. You're a rock star," things like that. And I thought, okay, I will take those next time I'm out and about doing errands, and I will just drop them around wherever I'm at. And so that's what I did. So I dropped 6 of those out, and I thought, okay, done. I just dropped off little nuggets of hope. And that's what I started calling them, little nuggets of hope. But the word hope kept showing up everywhere, and it didn't stop. And it seemed like it was even more so happening. And then it came to me, just very strong nudge in my heart that no, you're supposed to do a little more and you're supposed to actually give hope to a person. And I thought, oh, wow, that's I'm still not feeling it. And do I really want to do this? But the more I thought about it and the more the word kept sticking around, I got online. I'm like, okay, what can I actually do as a nugget of hope? So I actually found these polished stones.
Yeah.
And I ordered some online and I thought, all right, I'll carry these with me, a few with me, and see what feels like I should be doing, you know?
Yeah.
And one day I was in the grocery store and I saw a woman, an older woman, standing in an aisle staring at a wall of groceries, but she had this such a sad feeling coming off of her. I mean, I felt it and I recognized it because I had been her standing, staring blindly at stuff. And you're just, in that moment, you're like, can I even take another step? And that's the feeling I was getting from her. And so it was immediately so strong in my mind, she needs a nugget of hope. So I just reached into my pocket, grabbed out one of these, and walked up to her and quietly said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And I held out my hand and said, "I'd like to give you a nugget of hope today." And she was somewhat startled and looked at me funny, but held her hand out. I'm a stranger, but she held her hand out and I gently placed it in her hand and I said, "I wish you a blessed day." And I turned to walk away because I don't feel that I'm supposed to talk to them. I'm not supposed to find out their name or their story or anything. I'm just supposed to give them that little nugget and then they can take it and do with it whatever they want. So I just wished her a blessed day. And as I turned and walked away, I heard her say, "Oh my goodness, thank you. You have no idea." And I kept walking and I thought, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
And so that was almost 3 years ago. And I continue to do that. And those stories, I come home and I write them down because I don't want to forget them. I want to be reminded that I can be a nugget of hope to someone, whether it's a smile or holding a door or giving them a physical nugget of hope. but I also want to remember, remind myself on those tough days of my own, to pull
Yeah,
myself
definitely.
out of that.
Well,
So that's how it started.
yeah. Oh, wow. Well, it's definitely the world. We're so disconnected now, although we have so much, but we're so far apart. And then also, you were living with PTSD, and did that sort of shift your perspective on what truly matters? Because it's
Yes. Yes. I'm a veteran. I served in the Air Force, and I went through a traumatic experience while serving, and that has carried with me. And there are times that it seems like I always say it goes like this, it comes in waves at times, and certain times of year are a little tougher than others. And I have found that those that have reached out to me when they saw me struggling, whether it was with panic attacks or depression, um, not sleeping, other veterans, my brother and sister veterans, they recognize in me symptoms of PTSD because they have it too, because most of them are combat veterans. And for me, it's given me much more empathy for those who are hurting, and patience and tolerance, and appreciating the true meaning of kindness, and just how important it is in this world, because the world can feel pretty darn dark.
yeah. Well,
um
especially when you see the things that on the other side of it.
right. And I think a lot of folks, we take so much for granted. We take so much for granted worldwide. We take so much for granted. And I know here in the United States, we take a lot for granted. And I'm guilty of it too. I know I am, but I also know that I can check myself on that. Like, wait a second, Kim, pull yourself back, and that person needs a little help. Maybe that person just needs a smile today. Compliment a stranger. You have no idea how that can change someone's day and possibly their life, because you don't know what's going on in their life in the background.
So you saw these things. What was sort of the point that you realized that you had to start speaking up and start writing? You started writing your book.
Years ago, this is like 14, 15 years ago, um, when I was in the corporate world, someone that I had met at a large networking event, her and I kind of clicked, and we started, collaborating on different things and doing things. And she was putting together an anthology and asked me if I would like to participate. And I had shared some of my story with her, and about my trauma. And she said, would you like to write a chapter in this anthology? And the name of the book is called Inspire. And she said, I'd love to have you share that, because I think that that would be very helpful for others who have went through something similar, or just something dark, or someone who is living with PTSD. Your story would probably help them. And I had not ever shared it before, so that was kind of a turning point for me. And I wrote the story, and they had me working with an editor and stuff, because I'd never written before. Um, Something that was going to be, published like that. And that was kind of the start of it. And so I would write things here and there. And I wrote stuff for my local newspaper for years on regarding veteran issues and things like that. And, gave speeches locally to veteran organizations and different civic organizations. I was regularly asked to speak, and I wrote all my own stuff, but I never considered myself a writer until a local newspaper. I had given a speech to like 800 veterans, and it was a very personal speech. And it was the first one that I had ever done publicly in front of such a large group. And the local newspaper approached me afterwards and said, "Hey, would you consider writing a monthly article for the paper?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not a writer, but I appreciate it. Thank you for asking." And he said, "Well, who wrote your speech?" And I said, "Well, I did." And he goes, "Well, then, Kim, you are a writer. Would you consider writing for the paper?" And so I did, and I did that for 14 years. And
Yeah,
uh, it took a long time for me to sit there and say, "Yeah, you're a writer," because I was just like, I'm just sharing stories.
yeah. Well, it's just a humble approach. You just wanted to help. essentially.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it brought you to write the book after that. So, what was sort of the heart behind your book, Nuggets of Hope?
Because it just feels like since 2020, it was just craziness. It feels like the world lost its mind,
Yes.
completely lost its mind. And I'm sitting there going, why is everyone believing every single thing they're hearing? Why are people losing their minds? Why are families falling apart because one thinks you should do this and one thinks, no, I'm not going to do that? I mean, it was just, and it felt like we were constantly being propagandized through the media.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, turn off your televisions.
Yeah.
Stop listening to it. Use common sense. And it felt like the world had lost hope. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Look out your window. Look at your neighbor. There's hope everywhere. There is beauty to be found everywhere. Take yourself out of it. Take all those emotions and that silliness out of it. Use your common sense and look around. Just look around and open your heart. Quit closing yourself off. It was so disturbing to me. I had to turn off everything. No social media, no television, no radio, no nothing, because it felt like just so much weight after weight after weight was just landing on me. And I'm one of those people who's like ridiculously empathetic. And I can't handle all of that
Yes.
because then it sucks me down. And I'm sitting there going, no,
Yeah.
no more negative anchors. I don't want them. And that
Yeah.
seemed like that's what the world was filled with. They were just
Oh,
chucking out there negative anchors. And I'm like, I don't want it. Keep it for yourself, you
yeah.
know?
I know. Yeah. Well, I definitely had the similar experience, but it's yeah. It was craziness in all elements, especially somebody because all my clients were locked down. But we won't go down my track of the story because yeah, it was definitely a time that, and we're still recovering from it. Essentially, that nothing
Yes.
it hasn't gone back to normal. No matter how much
And
evidence is out there, it's
right,
yeah,
right. And someone and there was another person I just the other day were having this discussion on normal.
yeah.
They're like, people are waiting for things to go back to normal. I said, there will be no normal.
Yeah, well, this is we've got to create a new normal, and it's I guess, well, spreading the right messages is part of going
Right,
into the right track of
right,
creating what we should expect, and
right.
yeah,
So, that's what I say. I'm like, okay, instead of complaining and pointing fingers and throwing all your poison darts, say and do something positive and you start the change in your slice of the world.
yeah, that's
You
it.
start the change.
Well, I think
Be a nugget of hope. And I say, why wouldn't you want to choose to be kind?
yeah. Well, as you touched on, instead of it was an opportunity for everyone to be kind to each other, but it ended up a lot of people just turning on each other, difference of opinions instead of just, and all that stuff. Just it didn't really matter. At the end of the day, whatever somebody decided to do shouldn't have become the identity of that person.
Right.
So,
Boom, right there.
um,
I'm telling you, the world lost its mind.
yeah, but yeah, well, we can talk, but I want it to go onto YouTube, so we're not gonna. So we'll continue to focus on your book, which is the next question is, why do you think kindness is so powerful but so often overlooked as well?
I think because most people are selfish.
Yeah,
That just seems to be how it is lately. And they're not, for whatever reason or various reasons. I don't know. I can only speak for myself, and I'm guilty of it. There are times where I know I'm not looking outside my own bubble. And we're not meant to stay in our own bubble. That's not why we're here.
yeah,
We're here to have community, to have fellowship, to help and care for others. Those are the words, help and care, not tear down and blast apart. And kindness to me is often overlooked, I think, simply because of selfishness and people's, and I'm not trying to like bash humanity because I'm not doing that. But our lives, we get so caught up in our daily grind of our lives. Get up, take care of the kids, take care of the animals, go to work, come home. You're so tired. Oh, I got to take the kid to dance lessons. Oh, I still have to make dinner. Oh, and by the time you get to sit down, it's 10:30 at night and you're so tired and you're like, oh, I don't even have time to take a shower. So I understand that normal grind, and you can't get yourself, but you've got to give yourself, I always say 10 minutes, take 10 minutes, lock yourself in the bathroom if you need to.
I
10
guess
minutes.
I guess it's the perspective as well now that the people believe that there's not enough to go around, but there really is an abundance of things in the world. So there's no need to be as selfish. And if we all collaborated, then the world would be a better place.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And you've got to start being kind to yourself so you have a better capacity to be kind to others. I firmly believe that.
I know that you shared the story earlier with the stone for the with hope, but I think we were chasing another. Can you share a moment where a simple act of kindness has changed someone's entire day? Have you?
There was a woman with my little nuggets.
Yes.
I was walking to my car in the parking lot, and this is an older woman. I mean, quite elderly, probably late 80s, and looked to me very frail, but she was struggling to get her bags from the cart or buggy, whatever you call it, into the trunk of her car. And so I kind of looked and did a double take. And I'm like, oh, Kim, you're going to go over there and help her. Of
Yeah.
course you are. So I walked over, but as I was walking towards her, all of a sudden it just hit me so hard. She needs a nugget of hope. And I was like, all right, do I have one in my pocket?
Yeah.
And so I walked up to her and said, excuse me, can I help you put those in your trunk? And it was cold out. It was like really miserable weather. And I said, let me help you get those in your trunk so you can get in the car and get warm. And she's like, oh my goodness, thank you so much, sweetheart. So I helped her get them in there. And I noticed, like, have you ever looked at someone and when they actually look you in the eyes, you notice such a sadness there?
Yes.
And this is what I saw with this beautiful soul. Because when she turned and looked up at me, she had such sadness, and I could feel it. So I got her groceries in there in her trunk, and she's like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And she's reaching in her purse, and she pulls out a couple dollars and she says, here. And I went, no, I am absolutely not taking your money. But, I just wanted to help you out. And I said, I would also love to give you a nugget of hope today. And I held it out, and she held her hand out, and I put it in there. She immediately started crying. And this gets to me every time.
Yeah.
She started crying, and she put her arms out and she said, can I give you a hug? And she gave me a big hug, and she whispered, she goes, you have no idea what this means to me. You are personally my guardian angel today.
Yeah.
And she goes, God sent you to me
Yeah.
today. And I went, thank you. Wow, you humble me. And she says, you don't have any idea what you've just done for me. And I said, well, I'm glad I was able to, whatever it is, I'm glad I was able to. And she got in her car, and I went in my car, and I sat in my car and I cried.
Yeah.
I just sat there with my head on the steering wheel, and I'm like, okay, God. All right. Yeah. Now I know why you pointed me in her direction, why I was walking and I saw her. And that changed her, because it was such a physical change with her. Her face lit up. A little bit of a light came back into her eyes. I mean, it was very noticeable to me. Her whole demeanor changed. And I was thinking, when I was driving home, I was thinking, so many people don't feel seen.
Yes.
And I think maybe that day she just needed to be seen.
Yeah. Well, it's a lack of connection, and
Yes.
and for the older people that aren't hooked on technology and these dopamine hits, they're
And that might
struggling.
be the only time she's around humans, is when she's out getting her groceries once a week or something.
Yeah, and
Maybe that she doesn't
nobody
even
helps.
have a conversation with someone, you
Yeah.
know?
It's so sad these days that people just walk past. They see someone struggling, and yeah, you see someone fall over and nobody rushes over to help them anymore. It's
No. And I've never understood that. My whole life, because I'm always one that does rush in.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Even when people say, no, leave it, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Well, I only carry a jump pack and a first aid kit in my car for other people. That's because I've only used them
Yeah.
other people, rarely on myself. So
Yeah,
yeah,
right. Yeah.
but yeah, it's because yeah, the jump pack is for the car though, not for the
Right.
not for the heart.
Yeah.
Just to clarify that. But
Yeah.
yeah, why do you think people stay silent about their struggles as well in this modern world?
Pride.
Yeah,
Don't want to look weak.
yeah, no,
And I word it that way because that's how I felt,
yeah,
because I carried stuff for so long. Oh, and just buried it and kept stuffing it down, stuffing it down. It doesn't stay down. It will come out in some
yeah,
form, you know? And mine was, well, I'm not going to let people know that I'm struggling. I'm not going to let people know I'm having anxiety attacks. Are you kidding me? So
yeah,
it was, for me, it was pride. And then I learned, years later, you've got to put your pride to the side.
yeah. No, you definitely is.
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, well, I think a key thing is for people to see these days that people do, like your story. People do go through things. Everyone goes through things, and a lot of people aren't. They think that they're the only ones.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. We
and
all, none of us are going to get through life unscathed.
yeah,
None of us. We're all going to go through really big bumps. We're going to
yeah,
fall flat on our face, or we're going to be knocked on our face.
yeah,
Life does that, but that doesn't mean you give up and stay down.
100%. It's. I'm gonna reword my next question a little bit because I think it's you've already spoken about finding your own voice, and I'm not going to double over that again. But I think a better worded question would be, what advice would you give to somebody else trying to find their own voice?
Wow. You have to believe in yourself. And I know whoever's out there listening, and I'm looking at you
Yeah,
because I see you. It's hard. It's very hard to believe in yourself when you're in that dark spot. I know it is, but you can. And here's something that was shared with me that I've been sharing for probably 2 years now. Look in the mirror. And what's your first instinct when you look in the mirror? My first instinct when I was in that dark spot was like, look at this piece of crap. Look
yeah,
at you, Kim. Look at you. You're a mess. And then I was asked, Kim, those things that you say to yourself, would you say that to your daughter? Would you say those words to someone you love? Would you talk to someone like that? And I said, absolutely not. They said, then what are they doing that? What are you doing that to yourself for? And that changed something. That changed, it flicked a switch in my brain. And then the next thing they said was, and this is the part I want everybody to hear.
yeah,
You're still standing. You might be in such a dark spot right now, and it might just be a struggle to get a shower. Remember, even if that's the only thing you do today is get a shower, count it as a win, please, because it is. It's a win. Take all those little wins and count them as wins, acknowledge them for what they are. But here's the other thing, the main point. You have, since you're still standing, you have a 100% success rate for getting through the tough stuff because you're still here.
yeah,
It doesn't get better than 100%. So that is huge. And when that was shared with me, I've never forgotten it. I actually have it on a sticky note right above my laptop. So it's right in front of me. I lift my eyes up, I'm reading it. It's my reminder. So if that's what you need to do, write it on a sticky note, put it on your refrigerator, put it on your bathroom mirror, wherever. But I put it on right above my computer.
yeah,
So I see it every time I sit down to get to work. You have a 100% success rate for getting through the tough stuff.
yeah.
And
Well, I
that just
find
makes certain days you're just like, yes, okay, let's keep on going, you know?
Yeah, well, I find that putting the quotes around is really underrated because I do that as well with things that get me inspired. I think that's a really great thing because the self talk is so powerful. Because if
Yes.
you as Kim as you've said, if you're not believing in yourself and you're not talking yourself up, then that's the first place to start. It sure is. And Key takeaways from hearing your work. Would you like to share some key takeaways you'd like people to take away?
Well, the one that I just shared,
Yes,
that's one for sure.
100%.
You have 100% success rate for getting through the tough stuff. That's, to me, that's huge. And I hope that that's landing on whoever's supposed to hear it right now,
Yes,
and that you tuck that away. And also, because you get so stuck in your muck, that's what I always say, you get stuck in your muck. It's hard to look at the bright side of who you actually are, and that you actually are a pretty amazing human being. And there's a reason that you're on the planet. There's a reason you're here. So, figure it out. Find your purpose, find your passion. What is your passion? You know, and find your purpose. Don't put so much thought into it. Just think about what is it I'm good at? What do I like? What do I have a passion about? And then make something happen with it. Because you are amazing. Each individual, each of us are amazing. I mean, think about it, as human beings, how we're all put together and formed. It's amazing. So take that awesomeness and do something with it and make your small slice of the world a better place while you're doing it.
perfect. It's and we're gonna. What's next for your community? Because Kimber has a podcast and as well, and she's been running for many more years than attention is the currency. But it's what's next? What should we be excited about?
What should I get? Well, I don't have anything big on the horizon, but what I'm trying, I'm enjoying the ride as it is right now,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I want the podcast to grow. So of course I'm working to grow
Yeah.
that. I have a couple other books that I'm writing currently, 2 books at the same time, which I've never done. So
Yeah, well,
trying to
that's
figure out
big.
how.
That's big.
Yeah, it is. And one is fiction. I've never written a fiction book because the books I've written prior are all nonfiction. So I'm writing a nonfiction that's all focused on PTSD from like a layperson, my perspective, and other, like, not a doctor, not a social worker perspective, from those who live with it perspective. So I'm writing a book on that. That's the nonfiction. And then the other one, which is fiction, it's kind of fantasy, but it has like, lifetime morals in there, but it has magic and wood sprites and stuff like that in it.
Yeah,
So
well, that's fun. It's
it is
that's really
fun. And that
exciting.
one's
Yeah.
been, that one's been fun to do. But since I've never done it, it's a whole nother realm to write a fiction book, to write a novel. So
Yeah.
I'm learning on that as I go, but I'm enjoying the process. So I'm not putting any stress on myself. I'm not giving myself deadlines. I just want to enjoy the process and put out the best books that I'm able to do.
Yeah, well, you could be the next J.K. Rowling's or one of those ones for the fiction.
Well, who who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, that's it. Well, you've got to be in it to win it.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. And if I don't believe in myself, who else will?
yeah. Well, we'll all be excited for that as well because it could be the next movie. We'll work on that one as well because that could be the next
That's
big
right.
thing.
You never
Yeah,
know. It's such a fun story. I'm not going to give any of it away because I'm still writing it, but it's
yeah,
been so fun to come up with, to create the characters and how they talk with each other and their personalities. It's literally been fun. I sit here and laugh out loud at
yeah,
what they're saying to each other.
yeah.
It's just
That's perfect.
I'm
Yeah,
having a good time with it.
yeah. Well, we all know that energy is gonna transfer over to the reader when it comes out. So, but
I hope.
if everyone's to hear the mystery, you've got to be following Kim, and
That's right.
she'll put it out there when she's ready. So, how do you keep grounded and hopeful during tough seasons? Because life is never. Because even if you're doing really well, there's always the tough seasons, regardless of who you are.
How do I stay grounded?
Yes.
For me, I have to be outside. How I stay grounded, I literally have to be outside. I take my dog for long walks every day. That's where, and that's why I've shared this so many times. When I'm outside, that's where I breathe easiest.
Yeah.
That's where I pray the most, and that's where I can find the most peace. And I live in the country, so I'm surrounded by fields, woods. I see deer every morning when I'm out walking. It's just,
Yeah.
I just took a picture of this beautiful young buck that he like just popped his head up in the field and just stood there and stared at me this morning at 5:30. And I was like, oh, well, good morning.
Yeah. No,
So it's
beautiful.
those little peaceful little moments
Yeah.
that are my nuggets of hope each day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I stay grounded. I get outside. And
Yeah.
I strongly encourage, no matter where you live, whether it's a city or not, find a park, find some place that's a little bit green and just sit and be still.
I can relate. There's near my house, there's like an abandoned football field that they just didn't redo up, and I take my dog for a walk around there, and that's where I do you do the best thinking. Walking the dog
Yes.
is the most underrated activity for. And I come up with the
I
best
consider
ideas.
it probably the best therapy.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and the dog, you can talk to them and they don't answer back. They don't. They just listen.
They're right there with you no matter what.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
they're excited by everything. That you talk to
Yeah,
them, you tell them the idea, the tail starts wagging, and you know you're onto the right thing.
that's right.
No complaints. Uh, if you could leave the world with one sentence, what would it be?
One sentence.
We're coming into the close of the tough
Yeah.
questions right at the end.
Yeah. One sentence. You are worth more than you realize. Quit questioning your worth.
Perfect. And then we'll go to we won't make any comment. We'll let that sit because the listeners, it's perfect. But we'll go to the signature close question. That's the most important question of the whole interview because it is the name of the podcast. Kim, if attention is the currency, what should people stop spending it on and start investing it in?
You have to pay attention to yourself and your health and your mental well-being. So invest in yourself in whatever way that you see that that's healthy for you. Invest in yourself. Because if you don't and you stay stuck in your muck or wherever that dark spot that you may be in or that you may face down the road, you need to be able to get through those tough spots. So invest in yourself. That's my advice.
Perfect. Kim, thank you for reminding us that even the smallest spark of kindness can light up a life. Listeners, you can connect with Kim and find her books at Kim Lengling author.com. If this inspired you, pass it on because a nugget of hope is worth sharing. We'll make sure we put Kim's links into the description, and definitely follow Kim because you're going to want to you want to see what she's doing at the moment. Jump onto her podcast, and you definitely want to wait for that fiction book because that's. I'm sure all the listeners are holding out for it now because you've just dropped enough mystery. Thank you, Kim. We'll see you all in the next episode.